everyone to this session. We're going to ask some quick questions to get started. Are you willing to use innovative materials to facilitate learning for students in different learning environments? Would you like to inspire students to accomplish their goals while learning English? Have you felt frustrated because you plan your classes, yet your students don't respond to the activities that you prepare, the way you wish they would? And have you tried to find ways to reach your teenagers through English, but can't find just the right resources? Well, let's find out.
If this describes you and your classes, we would like you to know that this is natural, especially in the current education situation. And there is nothing wrong with feeling this way. In this masterclass, we will explore EcoKids resources and to help you better understand and answer those questions that Tatiana asked. Please stay tuned.
Perfect. Well, welcome to the session. Before we get started, the most important thing is to introduce you guys to our guest teachers for today, and also to let you know who we are. We're going to be presenting your session for today. So first, we have our teacher, Handy Martinez. Handy is going to be joining us as our first guest teacher. She is from Institución Educativa Colegio Angulo Rural CDE Girón in Santander. Welcome, Handy. This is a little bit of your profile. So it says that you're a bachelor in teaching English from Universidad Industrial de Santander. You have a master in English teaching as a foreign language and a specialization in TIC. Welcome to our session today, Handy.
Hello, it's great to be here.
It's great to have you. All right, perfect. So welcome. Let's keep going with our introductions, Marce.
Yes, our next guest teacher is Diego Alexander. Hi, Diego Alexander. Could you say hi to the audience?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here, and thank you so much for this invitation.
Great. So let's know a little bit more about Diego. He has a master in processes of learning and teaching second languages from Universidad Pontificia Bolivariana. He's an English teacher for grades 9th to 11th at a public school, and he also works for the Language Center at Instituto Tecnológico Metropolitano, ITM. Thank you, Diego, for being here with us.
And we have just one more teacher with us today. So our final teacher is Eliana Dominguez. Eliana is from Institución Educativa Álvaro Marín Velasco here in Medellín, where I'm also at. So we're neighbors. And part of your profile, we have then that you have a master in processes of learning and teaching second languages from Universidad Pontificia Bolivariana. You're an English teacher in grades 6th to 10th at a public school. Welcome to the session, Eliana.
Thanks a lot for having me here. I'm really glad to help you and to learn. I'm eager to learn about this program.
Wonderful, wonderful to have you. All right, very good. So Marce, why don't you introduce yourself and then I'll go.
Thank you. Yes. Well, I think it's time for me to tell you, yes, a little bit about myself. My name is Marcela Ferreira Jimenez. I'm a technical lead at the British Council. I have also had the opportunity to work for the Ministry of Education before. I have also had the possibility to travel around Colombia working with, hand in hand with teachers in big cities and also in tiny villages. Myself, I am from a very small town in Cundinamarca, actually a rural area. But despite being so small, I think that my dreams have always been big. And as I said before, I have been able to work in remote areas. Live also in very small villages, but also travel and study even abroad. And I think that these experiences have given me so much information and experience to know the needs of the teachers and also the students in the different learning environments that we live in Colombia, but that maybe teachers in other countries in the world also face. So I think that EcoTeens is an answer to those situations, those challenges, and my experiences, I think, that bring a lot of information and good techniques and strategies to this beautiful material as is Eco Teams. Well, that's all about me for now. Tatiana, would you like to tell us something about yourself? I think you're muted. Maybe.
Hello, can you hear me there? Yes?
We can hear you now.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Yes, of course, I'd like to introduce myself. I think we're both here because we're passionate about teaching, and we've had a vast experience in teaching. So just to tell you guys a little bit about myself, I'm Tatiana Gomez. I'm currently working in the bilingual national program. And the idea is that I've been teaching for over 20 years. I've taught in lots of different types of teaching sectors, even companies, schools, language centers. And throughout all of my experience, I think one of the things that I fell in love with the most was professional development. So I've been doing that for the past 5 years. Again, different cities across Colombia, also in rural areas, urban areas, and just really trying to connect with teachers and create a collaboration, because I'm a true believer that we all have things that we can add and support each other, and experiences that can help us independent of how long we've been teaching or the previous knowledge that we have, because we can all be creative. So I think this kind of session is going to definitely help us, and that's why our guest teachers are so important today. Additional to this, in the last few years, I've been working a lot on different project management, teacher development, and I think that's like the main idea for us today, to be able to share our experiences, for our teachers, our guest teachers to share their experiences, and for us to be able to tell all of our teachers about what we're going to be doing today. So why don't we just get started, Marce? Let's get into our exploring the content. Perfect. So in this first section, we're going to give you guys a little bit of context of what we're going to be talking about today. And to do that, I just wanted to start off with the big picture, right? So for this big picture, today we're going to be talking about Eco Teens and how Eco Teens can help us as teachers support different learning in our classrooms, be it in face-to-face environment with our students or online or hybrid learning environments. So how can Eco do this? Remember, we're going to have this universe, this ecosystem that Eco 2.0 has. ECHO stands for English for Colombia, and it's an educational ecosystem to support English language learning in Colombia. The first element that we're going to find is ECHO Radio, which is where we're going to be focusing on today. In ECHO Radio, we have 2 programs. One is developed for kids from 6 to 11 years old, and the other one is developed for teenagers from 12 to 18. That's the one we're going to be talking about today. Second element that's super important, and for those teachers and schools that have the possibility of having a good connectivity to download this material, to find all of these resources in an easy way, you guys can visit ECHO Web, echo.colombiaaprende.edu.co. And on this platform, you can find over 3,000 resources to support your students. There's resources for teaching and resources for learning. So it's a website designed for teachers and students. Finally, this whole universe, this whole ecosystem also has a component of continuous professional development, like programs like Inspiring Teachers, where we offer support and professional development to our teachers. And we also offer strategies like the ones that you guys are going to see today, so that we can see how we can use these resources that make part of this ecosystem. And finally, as a big part of this ecosystem, we have Be the One Challenge, which is our app. Our app has 3 main elements that are super important. The first one is that it gamifies English language learning, so that our students can reinforce, not necessarily learn, because it's not an app to learn, but it is to reinforce our skills, and offer 2 other components, not just for students, but for teachers. So from a teacher's perspective, Be the One Challenge can offer us a formative assessment, and for local education authorities and schools, they can use this for learning analytics to get data and make better decisions moving forward about all of the strategies that we use to keep teaching and learning English. Now, some of you may be wondering, well, I don't have connectivity. How can I listen to the radio program? What do you mean it's on the radio? Where can I find it? Well, you guys can visit EchoWeb, and on EchoWeb, you guys can go to the website that you find here at the bottom of the screen, which is basically echo.colombiaaprende.edu.co/emisoras. And here you guys can find the list of all of the local radio stations that are playing this program in your local areas, in your regions. So we have 72 radio stations from the Army. We have 78 local radio stations. I want to thank all of the local education authorities that have supported us and that have really allowed us to reach every single corner of Colombia. And that gives us 150 radio stations that you can find. Remember to visit the website so you can check the schedules and be able to continue finding out more about this program. Now, enough of how to find it, where to find it, what it's all about. Let's find out a little bit more about Echo Teens. So we're going to show you a quick video to see what you can learn about Echo Teens.
Hello everyone! In today's video, I will tell you about the radio program Echo Teens. And the first question that I would like to answer is, what is Echo Teens? Well, Echo stands for English for Colombia, and it is an educational radio program designed to promote English language learning while exploring different fields like technology, arts, tourism, and sports. The program is designed for teens and presented by teens, Rosita, Aleja, Ana, and Lucho, together with Julian, their English teacher. In the program, they share their life projects and help other young people see the benefits of speaking English. Let's move on to question number 2 now. What can teens learn? Teens will have the possibility to improve their communicative competence in English, while they also learn about technology, arts, sports, gastronomy, and tourism. They will develop employability and social and emotional skills that can help them interact in different settings. This means there is a clear focus on effective communication, motivation and initiative, leadership, teamwork, adaptability, planning and organizing, and self-management. Question number 3.
Wait, what happened, Marce? What's going on? What happened?
You know what?
Happened?
I don't think it is a good idea to give everything away. So we need to leave something for our session today, right?
Perfect.
I think the teachers and the audience in general have had a taste of Echo Teens, and I think we can invite them to explore a little bit more on their own. But now, why don't we dive into a segment of the radio program? So here we have chosen a segment from an episode called My Band. And right here, we are going to listen in a moment to this segment. And what I would like you to do is to pay attention to the characters, the topics that you're talking about, the way that they are using both English and Spanish. And for that, I'm going to also invite our guest teachers later on to see if they can answer a few questions about this segment. So why don't we have a listen?
Bueno, les presento el Echo Mailbox. Por aquí tenemos una urna transparente que tiene una palanca. Yo le voy a dar la vuelta a esa palanca para rotar la urna con los mails de los oyentes que imprimí y que ahora son cartas que ustedes van a leer.
Buenísimo! Let's see who needs our help today.
You get one letter out and then you read it. Así nosotros podemos saber la preocupación del oyente. What's the matter, dear listener?
Esta! What a nice mail. Very creative. Dear Rosita, Ana, Aleja, Lucho, and Profe. Su programa es muy entretenido. He aprendido inglés. Thank you so much. Estoy pensando en hacer un club de fans de ustedes. ¿Qué opinan?
¡Wow! ¡Buenísimo!
I would like.
¿Se imaginan? Todos estos fans de Lucho cuando se gane el tour por Europa.
Ay, no me haga poner rojo, Alejita, que los fans serían de toditos los de la mesa aquí presentes. Prosigo con el corresponsal.
Ah, ok.
I'm in my last year at school. In a few months, we will finish school. Estoy preocupada pues no sé qué hacer después del colegio. It is a big issue not knowing what to do. Mi mejor amiga siempre ha sabido que quiere ser profesora de niños pequeñitos. Ella quiere que estudiemos lo mismo, pero yo no tengo claro mi propósito. What would you do if you were me? Could you give me some advice?
I'm sorry, I was speaking and my microphone was off. Right, Tatiana, do you want to join me for this section?
Yes, of course. So we've heard our first segment. Here we have that special, like, short little taste of how this program was recorded, how we have our characters and everything. But I'm also going to invite our guest teachers because I want to start asking them the different questions to see what they got from this segment. So this is a great segment because it does show a couple of things. So I want to know from our teachers who can help me with these questions. So we have, how would you support this student? Let's start with our guest teacher, Handy. Handy, can you help me with this question, please? How would you support the student? What ideas do you have?
He is going to do most of your life. I would invite him to create a list of profession he fits in with. Then I would help him, maybe as a teacher, seeing his skills to find professions that adapt to him. In this way, he can have more options, and maybe I will also tell him my own story about how I became a teacher.
Those are wonderful ideas. I love that. And I think our students would definitely take advantage of that and keep learning. All right, let's keep going. So let's go with Eli. Eli, do you think your students relate to this situation?
It's common to see students with this situation in their minds. The last days of school, they are like worried because their world is going to disappear and they don't know what are they going to do. So yes, it's very, very common.
Oh, hi, sorry. Could you
All
guys
right.
hear me? I was talking by
Oh,
myself. I'm
goodness.
so sorry about that. So I was going to go with Diego. Diego, how are they using English and Spanish in this episode?
I think it's very interesting because it's actually what really happens in a classroom, like the interaction with our students. Although we are expecting that it's going to be like most of the time in English, sometimes it is necessary to use Spanish as well. And in this case, for example, when they are going to express like the plans for the future and the expectations for the future, sometimes they really don't have like the enough vocabulary or expressions to express their ideas. And I think that the interaction with the teacher is part of this process.
For sure. Thank you, Diego. And let's go with our last one. It says, are there any other elements helping the audience's experience or comprehension of this episode? Let's see. What do you think, Handy?
Okay, of course. I wrote some of them. Maybe the modern background music. Also, the main idea of the interactions is in Spanish. The original way of selecting teenagers' mail, it makes it more interesting and produce expectations in them. And above all, the hoster's energy.
Yeah. All of our hosts, we have so many different characters in our program, and I think all of the students are going to love them. Thank you guys so much for all of your input. Now, I have just to sum up a couple of things of the ideas that you said. I think two things that are super important is one, life projects. I think through this program, we're going to find a lot of examples of life projects, how we can be able to support our students through this learning experience and through their life projects, and how English can help their life projects regardless of what they want to do, right? That's the first thing. And the second thing that I thought was really interesting to wrap up was translanguaging. I think the strategy of translanguaging, where we can help our students construct new knowledge based on their first language, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're translating or doing a grammar translation technique. It just simply means that we're using that knowledge, that previous knowledge that they already have in their mother tongue, to be able to construct new ideas, to get all of this knowledge. And let's not forget, if our students are in front of the radio listening to this program all by themselves, they're going to need support. So all of this support, like Handy was saying, the sound, the background, the energy of the students, like Diego was saying, the translanguaging skills, and through these life projects, we're going to have our students connected and being able to participate and engage as much as possible. So thank you guys for your answers. And I think, Marcela, I think it's time to move on to our next section. And now, since we've already given everybody the context of what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to move on into our teaching toolbox, which this is what we're here for. So let's get started.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Tatiana. And in this section, we will be learning and putting into practice different teaching strategies that will help our teachers deliver classes in English using EcoTeams resources. So let's begin. The first technique is prepare for the class. Now, who needs to prepare for the class? Both teachers and students, right? First, we're going to focus on the teacher's perspective, and then we're going to explore how students can also prepare for class. In this section, we need to activate previous knowledge before having students listen to an episode, right? And these type of activities, I think you are all familiar with this, the things that we do before we actually listen to something, to any type of audio. We need to activate that previous knowledge that the students have. These ideas can be found in the teacher's guide, right? So today we are going to be exploring different resources. This specifically comes from the teacher's guide. So Tatiana, maybe you can move on to the next slide. And here you're going to see an example of what it is to activate previous knowledge. So since we have the topic my band, or my band, I'm interested in knowing our audience and also our teachers' music preference. For this, I prepared a question and also a poll. So please, if you are watching this masterclass right now, check the comments video below. We will be sharing that link that you see on the screen and also a code. In order to participate in the poll, you need to enter that code, or also you can scan the QR. In the meantime, I'm going to invite my guest teachers to answer this question. If I could have our teachers, maybe Diego, Eliana, and Handy, answer the question. The question is, what is a traditional type of music from your hometown? And is this your favorite? If not, what do you like to listen to? So again, my guest teachers, if you could help me answer the question, and if you're out there watching or listening to us, you can also vote on the poll. Thank you.
Okay, in my case, I am from Pereira.
Teacher Eliana?
All right, but it was okay. I'm gonna do it. And then you. I'm not from Medellin. I'm from Bogota, and the typical music there is Andina music, which is not my favorite. I love indie rock and pop.
Okay, thank you. How about you, Teacher Diego?
Well, in my case, I am from Pereira. I am also not from Medellin. In Pereira, it's very popular, like this cantina music. Like most of the artists are from there. So probably it's not the type of music that I prefer. I also liked pop music. Normally, this is what I listen to. So yeah, that would be like a difference and contrast there.
Thank you so much. How about you, teacher Handy? What is
Okay,
that traditional type of music?
I'm from Bucaramanga. Here is very popular vallenato. I like some of them, some songs, but I really prefer rock music.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I think we have given our audience enough time to vote. So in a moment, oh wow, they are still voting. Okay, let's see. I am going to show you the results in a moment and see what other teachers had to say about traditional music in Colombia. Okay, just a moment. Okay, I have them now. Okay, let's see. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, there are many people selected other. So maybe their type of music was not, the traditional type of music was not included in the poll. Let's see, but many people answered salsa, 24%, vallenato, merengue, carranga, cumbia, bambuco, llanera, joropo. Wow, many people participated. Porro, curulao, but no votes for curulao until now. But I think many more votes are coming up. Okay, great. Thank you everyone for voting and participating. Now let's move on to the next slide. If we could have the presentation back. Thank you, teachers, for participating. And it is great. Now you have given me some information about where you're from and also your likes. Since the topic is music, that's why we activated knowledge like this. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Now, a second activity that can be done, and this is from the students' perspective, is have them listen to an episode before class, right? So the teachers did something, but also the teachers prepare for the class. And how can we do that, or how can students do that? Well, they can do, as Tatiana was mentioning before, they can access the content through the radio. They can also access the content on the web, right? An episode of EcoTeens is made up of different segments, right? For example, the ones that you have on the screen. In this episode that we have selected to work with today, we have storytelling, connected, topic of the day, and a blogger, and let's recap. So in each episode, you will see that there are some sections. Sometimes they are the same, and sometimes they vary because we want to make it fun and dynamic. So we move sections around to make it more interesting for teens. Okay, can we move on to the next, please? Thank you. Another activity that can be done by teachers using the teacher's guide is a while listening exercise. And this is important because the teacher's guide is organized or structured in an scaffolding following a scaffolding methodology, right? With before, while, and after listening exercises. And here we have an example. So what we are going to do is actually do it live. We have an episode, we have a segment of an episode from my band. And here we're going to have the teachers and all the audience complete a while listening exercise. Now, it is important to give this information previous to the listening exercise itself, right? So what I am going to ask teachers Diego, Eliana, and Handy is focus your attention on the different information that this graph is asking you to pay attention to. So, for example, the occupations in the music industry, also Lucho's new talent, and the last one, who likes genre music, right? So why don't we have a listen and then we check the answers.
What are we going to talk about? El tema del día.
Let me tell you that Aleja brought one of her instruments to the studio, the guitar. Le pedí que me tocara unos acordes para continuar con el tema del día. Es que uno de mis amigos ciclistas paisas me enseñó más o menos a cómo trobar. A ver, Aleja, su merced. Mis amigos de Ecotins, seguimos con el programa y le quiero preguntar a esta bonita dama cómo hizo para emprender y tocar tan bonito. Es que con ese talento puede enseñarle a toditos.
Lucho, you are wasting your time as a cyclist. You have a lot of musical talent.
Ajá, Lucho, niño, tú sales con unas. Bueno, pues respondiendo a la pregunta de tu trova, les voy a contar cosas que me han funcionado para emprender en mi proyecto. First, you can identify your likes and dislikes. Eso le ayuda a uno a definir con qué género se identifica, como con qué instrumentos.
My favorite kind of music is llanera. The lyrics are amazing.
Uy, profe, como los joropos y eso, el zapateo.
Ajá.
¡Jujuy!
I am an electronic dance music lover. The beat is really catchy. Los computadores son fundamentales para crear esta música y me encanta todo lo que tenga que ver con tecnología.
Ah, pues claro, Rosita, no me sorprende, niña, eso es lo tuyo. Pure after party.
I'm not a fan of electronic music, to be honest. Yo sé aquí entre nos, y que mi madrecita no me escuche su merced porque ella es pura carranga. I'm into salsa music. I don't know how to dance, but I like it.
Ajá, pues de eso se trata, de definir lo que a uno le gusta, especialmente si uno quiere ser músico. I believe in the folklore of our coast, but I like a little bit of everything.
Bueno, Aleja, y también se trata de unirse a la gente adecuada, ¿no?
Sure, teacher. You have to seek people who have similar music taste to yours. However, you can be a solo artist as well. Ahora, cuando la música es un deseo compartido, hay que buscar lo que nos une, esa afinidad. Cuando me encontré con los de mi grupo musical, I realized they were so skilled. Ellos apreciaban lo autóctono y eran muy buenos.
Well, like you. You really know what you're doing, kid. Por eso se acoplaron también.
A continuación escucharás 6 oficios dentro del mundo de la música. Mientras escuchas, toma nota de cada uno de ellos. Singers, musicians, composer, artist manager, audio engineer, digital strategist.
Me imagino que no solo se trata de los músicos. You need to get the right people to boost your project.
Claro, tenemos múltiples oficios o profesiones dentro de esta industria. Apart from singers and musicians, we also have composers. They write music.
Necesitan mucha inspiración y creatividad.
That's right. We also have artist managers. They got the artist journey, organizing events, helping to sign contracts.
O sea, los que representan los intereses del artista.
¿Y dónde dejamos a los ingenieros de sonido, ah?
Okay, Rosita. Audio engineers are very important. They make sure everything sounds perfect. Es decir, todo lo técnico, las grabaciones, el sonido en vivo, la ecualización, todo depende de ellos.
Oiga, ¿y los que hicieron viral su video, Aleja? Hay alguien que se tiene que encargar de las redes sociales y eso, ¿no?
Ajá, estás en lo cierto, viejo Lucho. La presencia online en estos tiempos es clave porque esta carita no la van a reconocer ahí porque sí, ya tú sabes. They are called digital strategists. They are in charge of the strategy on social media. Ellos conocen las características del fan, hablan su idioma y hacen visible al artista, pero en digital.
Let's recap. Acabas de escuchar algunos de los oficios. Dilos en voz alta uno por uno. La campana te dará la señal. Singers, musicians, composer, artist manager, audio engineer, digital strategist. Fantastic, you've nailed it.
Para emprender en la música, también es importante la práctica y la perseverancia.
Ajá, profe, es que la práctica sea el maestro, así como usted sabe. Pues ajá, porque usted es maestro ya, ¿no? When we decided to start playing, we spent a lot of time rehearsing. Obviamente seguimos ensayando sagradamente, porque es que ensayar nos ha permitido descubrir nuestro sello. Cada artista es único y cada grupo también. Who you are as an artist. What makes you special. No necesitas copiar a nadie.
You are really gifted at this, Aleja.
This is Echo Teens, English for Colombia.
Okay. How did you like the segment? What is your opinion? Do you have any opinions about the segment? My dear teachers, I don't know who has an opinion about the segment. Did you like what you heard?
It is very entertaining because the voices are very appealing to talk, to listen, and it sounds like natural. So it's very nice to hear it.
To hear. Thank you very much, teacher. Good. And now, can we go check the answers and see if you got the answers right? So let's start with the first part. All the occupations in the music industry. Of course, there were many other things mentioned in the episode, but we wanted you to focus on different things. As a teacher, you can choose what to focus on, right? But we selected this for this exercise. So maybe Handy, did you catch any of the occupations that were mentioned in the segment? Dear teacher, I think you are muted. Would you like to unmute yourself so that we can hear?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Yes, I have it. Singers, musicians, composers, artist manager, audio engineer, and digital strategies.
Good, great. Thank you very much. Those answers are correct. Very good. Let's move on to the next part. I'm going to ask a teacher, maybe Eliana. How about Lucho's new talent? Do you get that?
Yes, I got it. His new talent is troar.
Troar, yes, correct. Thank you. And finally, for the last, I'm going to invite, of course, teacher Diego. What is your answer to that question? Who likes llanera music?
Okay, the teacher is the one who mentions that he likes llanera music.
Thank you very much. Notice that with this type of exercise, we keep students or listeners engaged in the activity and on task. So that's what we want, right? We want students to stay focused because they don't have the text. They are not looking at anything, right? They are just listening, but the sounds are also helping them with understanding. Well, thank you very much. Now, let's move on to another activity that students can do. And they can do this in the students' learning guide. For this, we can ask students to do the ready and steady sections. And what do I mean by this? In the learning guides, in the students' learning guides, you can find 3 steps or stages. You can find the ready, the steady, and the go. As you can see, it is also following a scaffolding methodology in which in the ready, they get vocabulary, target language, functional language. And then in the steady, they engage into one activity that helps them use the language, but in a controlled way. And finally, in the go, they are invited to take action, to use the language in ideally in a real life situation type of activity. So yeah, that's about this. What the students can do here in the learning guide. Can we move on to the next? And of course, yes, you can find these guides in the Guía de Aprendizaje EcoTeens 2.0, or also you can find it at EcoWeb, of course. Now, moving on to technique number 2, and for this, I'm going to invite Tatiana to explain what is this technique about.
Of course. Marta, thanks a lot for that first technique. I loved it. I think we have a lot of great ideas from there. And now we're going to move on to our second technique. So our second technique, which is when we're in the classroom, because we did the before, now we're in the classroom with our students, we're going to focus on communicating and collaborating, but we're going to focus on that functional language that we have from our episode, or in this case, from our segment. So to do this, our second technique is to use learning stations so that we can further improve our students' skills in the classroom. Now let's remember first, what is a learning station? So when we use learning stations, we get our students into smaller groups, yes. In each station, we can prepare different activities with a different focus, but the same target. It's basically just trying to keep our students moving, engaged, and giving them more ways to practice what they already learned or previewed in that first technique that Marcela shared with us. Now, here I'm going to present a proposal or an idea of how we can set up those stations. So in our first station, we can focus maybe on functional language. In our second station, we can talk about collaboration and have a collaboration activity. And in our third station, we can focus on communication. Now, it is important to realize they don't have to be in that order. So our students can start in each one of the stations, and after an assigned time period, you can switch. And when our students switch, they would go to the following station and be able to continue improving their language with that new focus, right? So if we have these stations, I have a question, and now it's my turn to get the teachers and get some ideas from them. In this case, we're going to be talking with Diego. So Diego, here, we're talking about station rotations and learning stations to help our students further improve their skills. So we're going to get our teachers that are listening involved, and then you're going to talk a little bit. So first, all of those teachers that are using Slido, you can keep using it. We are going to ask you now a new question, which is, do you use learning stations in your classroom? So Diego, while our teachers are answering our poll, what about you? Do you use learning stations in your classroom?
Yes, I have used them in different times. As probably I mentioned at the beginning, I work in a high school and I also work in the university. And I think that in both scenarios, it's something good to do. Probably when I have a specific topic that I want to explore, I try to use the stations with different skills. Like in one station, they're going to be focusing on a reading activity. Probably they're going to have a listening task, and then they're going to move to a production activity, probably a writing task, or writing a poster, or having a conversation related to the topic. And as soon as they are moving from station to station, they're going to have the opportunity to interact in a different way with their same classmates. Sometimes I think it's also important to mix the students in the different stations, so they have the opportunity to interact with different people. So that's basically what I have done with the learning stations.
I love it. I love it. Yes. And I think that what you said at the end is super important, because if we're able to make sure that we assign good groups that they can really support each other and support their learning, it makes a lot of difference when we get them into the different stations and they can help each other, and they can even get peer feedback, right? So I love it. Thank you, Diego, for all of your ideas. So now let's see. We're going to see if our teachers have given some answers. We're going to check our results a little later. So we're going to keep going with the presentation, and I'll come back to this part. Thank you so much, Diego, for all of your ideas. Now, I do want to go more in depth into each one of the stations. So let's go station by station. And at the end of these 3 stations, we're going to then check the results to see if you guys are using learning stations in your classrooms. So station number 1. In our station number 1, which is focused on functional language, I have a question. What could we use in class from Echo Teens 2.0? Well, we have students use the functional language from the episode's segments in class, which means that we can refer to our teacher's guide. In our teacher's guide, as Marcela was mentioning earlier, we find the structure of the episode, and in this structure, we're going to find lots of information. We're going to find the description. We're going to find the main topics. We're going to find the language functions and the competencies and skills for each section of the episode. In our case, for today's example, we have the topic of the day. So if we take a look at the column that's talking about language functions, we can find the different types of language that we're going to be using in class. Now, we can find the topics here, but we have a second part, and it's that we can also be able to find this activity in our teaching guides, right? We can find lots of language. So once we've taken our functional language, extracted what language we need, gotten our students to have one station where they can review this, we can also get them to see what language we can extract from other sources, like, for example, the student's guide. In the student's guide, we have lots of specific target and functional language that can help students to realize how to use it and come prepared before the class. So in this case, I have a little example for you. We have our tip, which is something that we can find in the student's guide, and the tip has some language that students can use, and if they've done this before the session because they've prepared, then they can come with this language and be able to use it or to review it and practice it in this station. Now, we can also get into our collaboration. So for this one, I'm going to explain what activity we find in our teacher's guide. So we've used our teacher's guide for the whole scope of the episode. Now we've used our student's guide to extract that language. And for our collaboration station, the idea is that we can use our teacher's guide. At the bottom of each lesson plan, you're going to find extra activities. And in these extra activities, you can use, for example, this one. This is a station or group activity that we can use for our students. The first step is to assign a genre of Colombian traditional music to each one of the groups. Once we've assigned, so we have our station. In our station, we have mini groups, right? So they have a different genre. The second step is for students to prepare a presentation to talk about the genre, popular artists, and bring musical samples. Because this is a topic that they probably already know about, same as our teachers just answered in the beginning of this segment, then it's going to be easy. They don't need to go and look for information. They can simply just say and talk about their own experiences with the music. And then finally, students can move on and start moving around the different presentations that, like seeing the different presentations that the groups prepared, so that they can really start recognizing and using the functional language through this topic. So what are we doing here? The students are working together to find and share information about Colombian traditional music. So this is a great exercise for collaboration. Now, if we move on into our third station, we have communication. Again, this activity is extracted from our teacher's guide, and this is a speaking activity. So with our speaking activity, we have step 1, where students are going to write the title of their favorite song and its genre on a piece of paper. So they're writing the title and the genre. Then they're going to move into step 2, where in step 2, students are going to pick a paper and they're going to write who they think wrote that song. So in their groups, they start picking the papers, writing, trying to guess who wrote each one. And then finally, in step 3, the students are going to share their answers. So they're going to say, right, what is the song, why they chose it, and they can even talk about what their favorite part of the song was. It could be the rhythm or the lyrics, right? And all of these topics were talked about in the episode and actually even in some part of this segment. So In this station, our objective is for our students to use the language that they've learned to talk about their favorite kind of music while using some of the functional language. So a good idea here in the different stations, like collaboration, communication, is to maybe put a little piece of paper with that functional language again, so that students have it at hand, so that they can see it and they can use it during these different activities. So we've talked about then, all the 3 stations. These are 3 examples. Remember, you guys can use lots of different ideas. Some of the ones that Diego mentioned earlier, which I loved, the ones that we've mentioned today. But the most important thing is that in this technique, we can think of all of these different kinds of stations. So Diego has actually already mentioned a lot of the different stations that we use. So now, before I give you guys some more ideas so you can take away, I do want to see how our poll is going. So let's go back to our Slido. I hope everyone has answered. Let's see in a percentage of yes or no, how many people have answered yes or no to the question that we asked before. So we're going to look at the results of our poll. Remember, we were asking if you guys use stations in your classroom. So we have 57% of our teachers that are connected said no. 43% of our teachers said yes. So this is a great opportunity. When we go back into our classroom, this is a great strategy to take different learning stations, create this learning experience for our students, especially if we've done that previous before our classes, which is what we've done in Technique 1. And then in our class, we can make the most of our time so that students can really get engaged. So now we're going to go back to our presentation, and we've asked what kinds of stations you guys use. Diego gave us already lots of great ideas. So now I'm going to share with you guys some of my ideas. So let's go back to my screen, please. And on my screen, we are going to share some of those ideas with you guys, okay? So first of all, let's recap the ones that Diego had also mentioned, right? He talked about focusing on production, on the different skills, so we can focus on speaking, writing, listening, speaking, right? And maybe have them set up by skills. Now, another idea is that you guys can set up quick assessments, short quizzes. You can do them on paper. You can do them with all of the different ideas or functional language that we saw in the episode, just to make sure that our students really understood that. Now, the next idea is question generation. If our students were working at home in that first technique, they may have lots of questions. They may not remember how to use something, or they may not be sure of what an expression means. So we can do an activity of question generation where they can actually ask you questions, right? And be able to solve their doubts, or ask each other questions and get peer answers. Finally, we can have some fishbowl practice where maybe 2 students are practicing and the others are observing, right? And finally, we can have role plays where each partner in the small groups, you can get them into partners and be able to do role plays and have them practice the language. Also, remember, in the learning guides, you can find lots of conversations that you can use for the role plays. So you can extract those conversations from the learning guides, make blanks, and then from there, be able to have them do the role plays in class. Now, I have one last part of this technique that I want to share with you guys, and it's those golden rules. At least these are my golden rules when I'm using learning stations in my classroom. First of all, let's keep all the activities student-centered. That way our students can be the focus of each activity. They can carry out these activities on their own, and they're the center of everything that's happening. Let's keep our students active. So let's think of activities that they can really engage in. Anything that you want, like we said before, it can be by skills or it can be by different types of activities. But each station should have a variety of purposes and outcomes. That's the most important part. So they could be focused on communication, collaboration, language review, or specific skills. Super important to take as much advantage as we can as getting our students to communicate and collaborate in the classroom, which is something that they can't do outside of it as well, right? And finally, because our students are working in small stations and smaller groups, we can offer continuous feedback. We can personalize our responses and our feedback to our students during all of this strategy. So I hope you guys enjoyed the second technique. We're going to move on into our third technique with Marcela. But just to wrap up, I think that this second technique can definitely help us, especially when our students have done that previous technique, right, where they can prepare for the class. Now in class, they can focus on participating, on communicating, on collaborating, and just making sure that they're really engaged with using the functional language that they've learned in the episode and segment from Echo Teens. Marcela, so now we're back to you. I love it. We're in our third technique. So please tell us all about it.
Yes, technique number 3 is go beyond the classroom and guide students to use the language. So what is this about? How can teachers and students go beyond the classroom? So for this technique, we invite teachers to check the teacher's guide again, right? And there are 2 types of activities that you can do, or ways that you can take better. One, you can do tasks, right? And also you can do projects. So in the next slide, you will see how we can start doing this type of, developing this type of activities during the class after we have used technique number 1 and technique number 2. But before I actually get into the technique itself, I would like you to, I invite teachers to check out the scope and sequence of the episode, right? In this scope and sequence, you will find a brief description of the episode itself, also the different skills that students can develop or that you can help your students develop. And those skills are intercultural and social and emotional skills, as well as communicative skills, and last but not least, employability skills. You will also find in the scope and sequence the functions, the language functions that are important so that they can put them into practice. Good, now let's see an exercise. Good, for the first activity, if you could click on next, please, Kathy, thank you. We're gonna go back to that situation that we analyzed at the beginning of today's masterclass, in which there was a student, right, who was wondering about her future. And I have modified it a little bit, and I have included this so that maybe our guest teachers in a moment can help me complete a clipboard to help this student figure out what to do. So the student says, what shall I do when I finish school? This is a situation, as some of the teachers mentioned previously, that many students face when they are, especially in 11th grade, right, trying to decide what to do. And the student says, should I become a music teacher? Maybe there are other options, but he's trying to make this decision. What we would like to see, or what we would like students to do, is to actually analyze their talents and skills. Well, that is a way that we are suggesting right now that this student can do, right? So let's see, what are these students' talents and skills? If you can click the next, thank you very much. So for example, she loves playing the harp. She is a good singer, and she can read music, and she likes creating new things. So I think that this student has a pretty good talent, right? A musical talent, but there is more than that, right? Apart from talents and skills, what else can this student do? So right now, don't move, Tati, please. I'm going to invite teachers, my teachers, Diego, Eliana, and Handy, to help me out and see if we can discover or we can list the pros and cons of becoming a teacher. You're teachers yourselves, and probably we have some music teachers listening or watching this masterclass right now. But could you tell me, maybe Handy, a pro of becoming a teacher? What do you think? Teacher Handy, I think
Excuse me.
your music
Okay,
again.
okay.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. Maybe we are learning continuously, so this is a pro.
Yes, as teachers, we are learning every day. That is true. Yes. Tati, could you click on and see what pros I had included? I can do what I love. Yes, if you love teaching as me, I love teaching. Long vacation periods, that's probably somebody can say that. And job stability. Okay. Now, I'm going to invite now teacher Eliana to, what do you think is a cons of becoming a teacher or a music teacher?
Well, when we are teachers, we have to be patient. So sometimes we get frustrated when students do not make effort the way we want or the way we would like to for them to do it, because they are not like or some of them are not disciplined. And when we talk about being uh, a music teacher, then it's necessary for the student to do it every single day for at least, I think, 2 hours. Yes, and some
Yes,
students
because,
are not
yeah.
disciplined. And when we get to the class and the student says, "Ah, no, I didn't do anything. I couldn't do it," and that it's impossible in those things, we can get frustrated. Or that person can.
Yes. Yes, that is true. That's why it is also important to plan our classes and make activities engaging, right? Because of course there is an age difference, and probably what they like is different from what we think they like or what we like. So engaging activities is key. But I also had other cons. Could you, let's see what cons I had. Large groups sometimes could be problematic, right? Lack of musical instruments. If you're a music teacher, and probably there are not enough musical instruments, that could be problematic, right? So, but all this to tell you that these students, what she did through this activity is to see there are pros and there are cons, not only in teaching, in the teaching sector, right? In any profession, there are pros and there are cons. And also there are talents and skills that we have. If we don't have them, probably we should make a different decision. Good. Thank you very much, teachers, for participating in this activity. I'm going to move on to the next slide. Another type of activity that teachers can do. Oh, well, actually, I think I need the teachers, for this activity as well. So, another type of activity that we would like teachers to use in their classes can be found in the teacher's guide. Again, in the teacher's guide, yes. And here, what we would like to see is questions that activate students to answer, to be participant, to questions that connect and relate to students' context, right? So here I have a question. Let's see what our guest teachers can answer. What musical traditions are there in your family, if any? But I think we all, in Colombia, we have a lot of musical traditions. And which ones would you like to continue with? How about Diego? Teacher Diego, can you help me answer this question?
Well, in my family, we have like different traditions related to music. I think that according to the time of the year or a special celebration that we're having, we're going to listen to a very specific type of music. We know that in December there is like a very popular music at that time, or for example, for Mother's Days or any type of celebration, even birthdays in the family. But something that probably it's very evident in my family, it's karaoke, and sometimes we do it because we really love using that time, and we really enjoy that kind of activity, for example.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Yes, karaoke is a lot of fun. Teacher Eliana, are
Well,
there any musical traditions in
and
your family?
yes, at my home, my wife is a musician. She plays the bass, the guitar, the acoustic guitar, and we're learning ukulele. But something that we really enjoy to do at night is to play with a new application that is Star Maker, and it's like a karaoke, and we record the songs with our voices, and we can share it for many people out there. So we like it, and I think that tradition is going to be forever.
Nice, very nice. Do you also play? You're learning to play
I'm
the
learning to
ukulele?
play ukulele, and I play kind of the guitar.
I see, I see. But you would like to continue with this,
Yes.
yes, tradition. Nice. Thank you, teacher. And finally, teacher Handy.
Okay, well, here my family is it's a very tropical family. So they really like vallenato, popular music. So all of this kind of music, they really enjoy. Always when they are cleaning the house for everything, just tropical music.
Okay, so there's a lot of dancing. I understand. Probably a lot
Yes,
of music playing all the time. Is that right?
yes.
Good. And you would like to continue with this tradition, or you think that, I don't know if you have kids or not, but maybe in the
No,
future you would like.
I prefer that rock music and all of kind of music. Yeah, but no, vallenato. I like some of them, but not all the time, like my family now.
I see. Okay. Well, thank you very much. And here we had an example of something that relates to the students as well, right? Are there any traditions in your family? What maybe we can involve their likes and their dislikes. And so that was a type of activity for communication using the target language. Let's move on to the next activity. And this is a music project. So we have seen communication activities. We have also seen live project activities to, for example, make decisions, as in the example. And now we have here a music project. This is an example. It could be any other type of project. But the idea here is that teachers can go to the teacher's guide again and find projects related to the episode, right? And this way we can invite students to go beyond the classroom, to actually take action, and it could be done through a task, as we have already seen, or through a project. And here, an example that we have included is to organize a music event in your school or in your community. It could be a school event to raise funds, for example, for a good cause, or to promote traditional music or traditional rhythms. And also something important is to give the students a rubric, and also give students an objective, a goal, right? And some steps that explain our expectations from them, right? So we would like students to exchange ideas and design the event plan, or we want afterwards we want students to assign roles, right? Specific roles, so they know what to do, and create a schedule so they know how much time they have for the activities they are creating. Also, we want students to prepare for the event itself, right? And they do that through collaborative activities. Another step that we can include is the event itself, right? The event takes place, and finally, we assess the experience or the project. This is just an example. Of course, depending on the project that you are developing, you can include more or less steps, but I think these ones are probably the most important ones when developing a project. And to wrap up, we have seen then how teachers can go beyond using projects. How can teachers go beyond using tasks? knowing that a task is a communicative activity that helps students use the target language, and those tasks, are related to real world situations or context, right? And knowing also that a project invites students in a longer period of time to engage in different activities and develop different skills to face a problem, a challenge, or to answer probably sometimes a complex question. So these are some of the ways that we invite you to go beyond the classroom, and all of these ideas can be found in the teacher's guide. I think it is time now to take action, and I'm going to invite Tatiana to help us take action. How do we keep on taking action? We have seen 3 different strategies. We have given you examples. We have practiced. We have done live polls. We have listened to our teachers and their context and what they do in the classroom. But I think it is now time to give you practical actions so that you can take them away.
Yes, Marce, I was here listening to that 3rd technique. I loved it. And just the same as the teachers were participating, our wonderful guest teachers were participating and so engaged in the questions, you notice how they started talking about their personal experiences and everything that was happening. So I absolutely loved it. Thank you so much for that 3rd technique. And as Marcela said, now we're ready to take action. So before we go into our 3 action steps, we're going to review a little bit because we did take a look at different stages of our lessons, right? So I want to make sure that we really remember those 3, almost 4 stages and see how this can help us in our classroom. So the first stage that we saw was preparing for the class. Not just us as teachers, but also our students. And in this stage, the objective is to make sure that our students can first learn the functional and target language. It could be from our episode or from our segment. Second, that they have the opportunity to do controlled practice exercises. In these controlled practice exercises, you can easily use the student's learning guide. And with the student's learning guide, you can be able to get them to understand the different dialogues, practice the different language, and come prepared to your class. In the next stage, we're in class. It's during the actual lesson. And what we want to focus on here, like we said in our 2nd technique, is focusing on communication and collaboration. Because when we're in the classroom, that's when we can get our students to brainstorm, to think, and most importantly, to use that functional language that they prepared for before the lesson. And second, during the class, we can assign one of those tasks or projects that we saw that Marcela shared with us. Remember, we have some ideas in the teacher's guide. We have some ideas in the student's guide. So you can use all of these different activities to assign one task or one project to our students. Now, after class, what do we expect our students to do? To start working on this task or project, to prepare it, and to have it ready for our next class, which is that going beyond. And in the going beyond is when our students come back to class, they can present or even carry out their task or project and be able to really use the language and familiarize themselves and be engaged in an activity that they can really, really use to continue furthering their learning language. Now, if we take a look at the strategy, we have 4 stages. And in these 4 stages, we have 2 stages that are before the class and 2 stages that are during the class. In all of these stages, I think for some of you, you may start seeing a pattern, or you may start seeing that this is actually a very familiar strategy. So for those of you that maybe caught it already, this is actually a strategy called, or methodology called, flip learning. So in our flip learning strategy, what we want to do is to get our students to prepare before the class. Remember, we can do this by having them listen to the segment, by having them use those student learning guides, giving them active listening activities like the one that we did in our first technique. Second, we can get them in class with station work and get them to collaborate and communicate. Lastly, we can get them to go beyond the classroom and start using this language in a meaningful way. So our invitation in this part, before we go into our 3 action steps, is to learn as much as we can about this strategy. I think it's a great way to really support our learning, and Echo Teens is a great resource to be able to extract ideas for each one of these stages. And this way we can really, really guarantee that our students are showing that scaffolding, are promoting, are using their language, and are being very, very active during the whole learning process. Now, let's go into our action steps. So our action step 1. In our action step 1, the idea is that we're going to share Echo Teens resources with our students, but we're also going to make them accountable. I think one of the activities or one of the ideas that sometimes happens is that when we go into the classroom and say, okay, students, are we ready to begin? And, I didn't do this activity, or I didn't prepare, I didn't listen to the episode. So to make sure that we're accountable for the activities that have to be done before the class, we can give our students a checklist. So this is an example of a checklist. Again, you guys can be able to choose a different type of checklist depending on the activities that you guys have decided to include in your lesson plan in the before, during, and after. So the first one that I have for you here is to listen to the episode. How can we listen to an episode? Let's remember we have 1. We can tune into the radio. Check those local radio stations on our website, eco.colombiaaprende.edu.co/emisoras. So let's check those radio stations, see what schedule we have. In most of them, they're playing them at least twice a week. So take a look and see how you can hear it there. That's our first option. Our second option, let's say our students don't have a local radio station where they can listen to the episode. The teacher can send the episode via WhatsApp. Let's remember that nowadays, WhatsApp has become an essential tool of communication in a lot of our classrooms. And I've talked to lots of teachers, and everyone says that they're using this tool more and more every day. So we can send the episode via WhatsApp. But how do I get the episode? Remember, you can go visit eco.colombiaaprende.edu.co. You can visit the Echo Radio section. And in the Echo Radio section, you can actually download the whole episode. You can also download the episode by segments, and you can also download the teachers and students learning guides. So all of these materials, you can visit Echo Web and be able to download them there directly. So that's the second way that you can send it to your students. And the third way is that you can direct them directly to Echo Web. They can find the episode, you can send them the link, and that way they can hear it directly on the website. So it's really up to you which one of these strategies you use. The most important thing is that we can share it with our students, and from the student's perspective, they can check it off and say, yes, I listened to the episode or the segment, depending on the activity that you decide to do. The second thing that they can do before the class is complete the ready section of the student's learning guide. Remember that that learning guide is divided into 3 parts: ready, steady, go. And as Marcela was saying earlier, this is a great way for scaffolding. It was designed in this manner to be able to really support the students' learning on their own. So the idea is that when they go into the learning guide, they can do the ready section, and they can also complete the steady section, right? These 2 are really great tools to be able to prepare before the lesson, because in this stage, this is where they're identifying the target language, they're learning the target language through a series of exercises, and they're also having a controlled practice of this language in the study section. So here we can find an easy checklist that we can share with our students that they can mark off after they've done each one of these steps, and that they can send to you so that they're accountable before the class that they've actually already completed all 3 stages before they came to class. Remember, this is really going to be necessary for that perfect timing in the classroom, because if everyone comes prepared, you can really be able to take advantage of those stations. But don't be afraid if students come unprepared. That's also a great idea with stations, that they're reinforcing this language so that they can be able to really make sure that everyone has the same information. So now I'm going to invite Marcela back, because we've talked about our flip learning experience. We've talked about our action step number 1, but now we're going to go into action step number 2. All right. So for this action step number 2, we're going to continue, and Marcela is going to tell us a little bit more about this one. So Marcela, what can you tell me about action step number 2?
Yes, thank you, Tatiana. Yes, action step number 2 is adapt your lesson plans with episode segments. And we had a clear example today. We used a topic of the day for developing all the things that we did. Yes, all the 3 techniques that we went through and that we put into practice. So I invite teachers to adapt your lesson plans with episode segments. And I'm going just to remind the audience how an episode is organized and how much time an episode, for example, lasts, and also a segment. So remember, EcoTeens, both EcoTeens and EcoKids, but we're focusing on today on EcoTeens, there are 16 episodes, correct? One episode lasts 20 minutes. So maybe as a teacher, you may think it's too long, and it is actually for a class probably of an hour. You may not want to go or spend 20 minutes in a listening exercise. But what you do want to do is to use a segment. And since there are 5 segments in an episode, we invite you to choose one. One episode is about 4 minutes long, right? As the one that we listened to today. And what it allows me to do is to actually have students listen to the episode before the in-person class. And during class, I can actually spend more time practicing. I can actually allow my students to ask more questions, to engage in different tasks or in projects, right? So our invitation for action step number 2 is to use segments instead of a full episode. Although all these segments are very interesting, and you can see them on the screen right now. For EcoTeens, you can have storytelling. You can have, I'm sorry, if you could go back. Thank you. Anna blogger, influencer, connected, topic of the day. Did you know? English around the world, common errors, and also let's recap. All of those are segments that you can use depending on what you want to focus on. And how do you know? Again, go check the teacher's guide where you can see what each of these segments is focusing on in terms of language and in terms of skills. Here, for example, you can see the structure. In the episode that we used today, there are 5 segments. You can see them there. You can see a short description, also the different skills that can be developed through the use of this episode, and the language that we would like to focus on as well. And this is in the teacher's guide. Again, for action step number 3, I'm just going to invite Tatiana back here so that she can tell us what this is about.
All right, thank you, Marcela. So see, I love this because we've been able to really summarize all of our techniques into action steps that our teachers can carry out in their classrooms. Here, we're going to have our final action step. And similar to action step 1, which was a checklist for our students, we have then our checklist for our teachers. So remember, in that Go Beyond section, our action step 3 is to determine the best ways for students to present their work and to make it meaningful. So we have here a checklist for our teachers so that we can really be able to carry out meaningful projects and tasks. So first of all, we're going to choose or adapt a task or project and assign to students. Remember, you have lots to choose from. If you go into the students learning guide, you can find the last section, which is go, like the example that we saw before, or you can go to your teacher's guide. And in the teacher's guide, you have the extra activities at the bottom. And in this extra activities, you have lots of ideas as well to go beyond the classroom. And you can choose some of these, adapt them, and be able to assign to your students. So here we have our first checklist. In our second point in our checklist, we're going to create and share your rubric for the task or project. Same as Marcela was saying earlier, it's very important to tell our students what the expectation is for that particular task or project. And that's why it's so important to be able to create it and share this rubric with your students so that they know exactly what to expect and what they're going to be doing during this project. And lastly, determine how students will present their tasks. Now, for this part, I think it's really important to remember that we can have them presented in different ways. We've talked today about Echo Teens, where Echo Teens can really support students who have low connectivity. But remember, all of these resources can also be used where students are using platforms or they're using online teaching, right? And because of this, we can think of different ways for our students to present the project. The first way, let's start with technology, is online. We can use something online like a Padlet, or we can use something like Flipgrid so that our students can present their projects online and be able to share their projects with the rest of the students. That's our first option. But of course, we can also do it in class. So let's say that we have our students that are rotating, right? So we can have them, when they come to class, present their projects, leave it somewhere displayed so that our students can see it. And that way, everyone in the community can see the projects as they come through. And when the students present it in class, obviously they can do it with the students that are there in the moment. And finally, if we don't have these options of doing it online or in class, then we can also share it via WhatsApp. In this part, we can share and have like a live WhatsApp session where everyone in a specific period of time is going to share their WhatsApp, their project or task via WhatsApp. And during this time, they can also make comments and feedback. And I think that the function of selecting a message and writing feedback or writing a response to a message can help us a lot to create like a real interactive experience through WhatsApp if it's necessary. So I'm going to sum up a little bit. We have gone through our 3 teaching techniques to be able to use Echo Teens resources for our high school students, our teenagers. And we have also gone through our 3 action steps that are going to allow us to really take action after the session and to be able to finish the session and leave today and say, oh, I know what I'm going to do for my next class. Remember to visit echo.columbiaaprende.edu.co so you can find all of these resources there. At the moment, you can find all of the first 4 resources for this program, okay? Now, Marcela, I think that we have gone through our techniques, we have gone through our action steps, and I love the next section because for this next section, we're going to be now trying to help our guest teachers to see what doubts they have, what ideas they have, what suggestions they have so that we can be able to continue and close up and wrap up today's session. So let's go into our Q&A, right? And let's invite our teachers. So let's go into our Q&A and see what questions our teachers have for us, okay? Perfect. All right. Marcela, are you ready to get all our questions? Oh, I can't hear you. Maybe it's the mute.
That's
there
true.
You go.
Thank you. Yeah, I was saying that I'm really excited to hear what they have to say. Maybe we haven't gone over certain things, and we should probably expand on certain questions they have. Also, we can invite actually our audience If you also have questions, please type them in the chat. We will be able to answer some of those questions. And yeah, let's listen to our teachers, our guest teachers.
Okay, perfect. So we're going into our questions. I think, why don't we begin with Eliana? Eliana, do you have any questions for us? And then Marcela or myself will join in and answer your questions for you.
Well, I don't have one. I have many.
I love it.
All right, I'm gonna try. We go one by one, right? So the first one, how would you think students with cognitive or physical barriers can be engaged with this program?
Okay, perfect. Wow, that's a tough one, but I love it. That's what we're here for. All right, perfect. So I think one of the things that this program or this strategy has is that it has so many resources. So we've talked about most of them today, but there's actually a few that we didn't have time to include because there's so many things to go over. So this question is actually perfect for that. So first off, we do have a material that, like we've talked about, is a radio program where we can focus on our listening skills, but this radio program has support. So we have transcripts in case our students need to be able to take it step by step and have visual support. Second, if in case they can't listen to the programs or that's not the right resource for them, then we can also take a look at the complementary videos, which we didn't have time to look at today, but there are videos for students and for teachers. These are all micro learning videos. They're quite short, so it's really good for those students because it gets their attention span. They're very visual, colorful. They have subtitles both in English and Spanish, so students can follow along very easily. And because they're micro learning, it doesn't overwhelm with a lot of information. It's just tips, strategies, like a mini lesson. So we do have that. And then additional to that, on Echo Web, we have lots of other resources that teachers can find that can support this program. So even if they can't use Echo as a whole, you can support this with readers, stories, lots of other resources that you can find online with Echo Web. So I hope I answered your question. I don't know if Marcela wants to add anything there. All
Well,
right,
the
perfect.
second one, you
Go
told
for it.
us that they have support in Spanish in the videos. And what about the reading material? Because in the pandemic, with all this situation, teachers, even here in the city, we see troubles because we design worksheets and we have to like translate them, all the things, because we know sometimes they're not or they don't have the skills to really understand what we need or what we want them to do. So it is in Spanish and in English, the reading material.
Yes, thank you for that question. And I think it is great that you bring this up because all of the resources, including the teacher's guide, the student's learning guide, the videos, and the radio programs themselves are following a translanguaging methodology, which means that we are helping our audience with our mother tongue, Spanish, to reach another language, to be able to explore another language and use it, not always having to depend on the instruction of a teacher, but we want to promote autonomous learning as well. As you are saying, especially during this time in which there are so many different learning environments and teachers are teaching and delivering their classes in different learning environments, we should probably consider how students can also learn by themselves. And that is why translanguaging is brought to these resources as a way to help our students and also teachers guide better their students' learning of English. So to answer your question in the short way, yes.
All right.
I love it. I love it. Do you have another one, Eliana?
Yes, I have
Go
another.
for it.
Well, I am on a lie of using Spanish in the classroom. There are teachers who thinks that it is not correct, but I think it is necessary. But when I am in class, I face myself because I think, well, they are going to listen the audio and they are going to do it by themselves because they are preparing the class, right? And they are going to commit mistakes, and not only oral but uh, writing, reading mistakes. So how can we avoid that they fossilize uh, words or misspell or do not um, pronounce in the correct way?
I love this question. Okay, I have an answer for this one. All right, so first of all, I think the program really tries to create a lot of really good examples and modeling for students. And it even offers the opportunity, like in the example that we saw earlier, to kind of give them time to either repeat or answer the question, and then they offer the answer so that students can always like double check to see if they're on the right track or not. So I think that's the first thing. The program itself does have a lot of like pedagogical strategies that allow it to naturally support learners and to model the language all the time. So that's one. And then in class, that's what the collaboration and communication stage is for, I think, because when we're in class, we can take what they've done on their own, have them use it, and then give that feedback. You know, when you go around in the groups and be like, oh, wait a minute, oh, I heard this. Wait, hold on. You can go and make that correction. You can go to the groups and then kind of see if there are things that are generalized as well and offer group feedback. So I think the program itself will support that learners don't fall into fossilized mistakes because things are repeated, they're recapped at the end of the session, and additionally, it's all focused on modeling the language in the clearest possible way. And secondly, in class, just trying to really make sure to use the functional language in class to identify if they need that extra support and avoid them creating those fossilized mistakes. I think those are like the two strategies I would offer. I don't know if Marce has anything else there.
I was just going to add that that is why it is so important that we assigned previous work or work before the actual class, the in-person class, because then students can come to class with questions, with probably a lot of doubts or not, and they just want to use the language that they have learned. But how do we know if they don't come with anything? That's why Flip Learning is helping us here to, okay, so here is something that I as a teacher need to do, but it's something that students need to do also before the in-person class. And during the class itself, teachers can actually devote more time to engaging in communication activities in which those mistakes that you are pointing out can come up. So yeah, I was just going to add that. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Do you have another one, Ellie? Go for it. Okay, last one, and then Andy and Diego.
It's just that. Okay, the program has 16 episodes, and I was wondering how can teachers dosify like the things for a whole year, or it is for a term, or it is for a semester.
So I have tons of ideas for this one. All right. So the first thing is I actually have really good news. And the idea is that we do have these 16 episodes, but we actually have a second season already in progress. So that's a big news. So you guys can keep that in mind. We will have more than 16 episodes. That's one. Second, remember we can download the segments from Echo Web. So when we download those segments, you could, like the class that we went over today was only with one of the segments. So one full episode could actually be for 5 classes. But remember, if we're using the strategy, 5 classes turns into 10 because I did the first part, which was the functional language communication, and then I did the second part, which was going beyond and going into our projects and tasks. So one segment could easily, or one episode, sorry, could easily translate into 10 planned classes. So you can definitely do that.
All right.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, let's see who is next. Let's go with Diego. Diego, do you have any questions?
Yes, I have a question, and actually, it's a little bit related to what Eliana asked in her last question. It's about for the teacher, what is like the best way to choose like the segment of the resource that they're going to use in the classroom? Because um, we probably have teachers from elementary school, from high school, depending of the age, depending on of the grade, depending of the I don't know, probably the region where they are, the background of the students. So can we say that all of the 16 episodes can be used in any type of scenario?
Mm-hmm. All right, perfect. So yes, the episodes can be used in lots of different types of scenarios. We can use them obviously online, but we can also use them in class. The only suggestion that I say I would have is like if there's no option of students listening to the episode, outside of class, to avoid using the whole episode. Go for those small segments, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I think the longest ones are like 5 minutes long, and that's it. Because of course you don't want to waste 20 minutes of your class having students sit down and listen to a full episode. So I would definitely go for those segments, and you can be so creative with it because you download the resources and they're yours, so you can use them and you can organize your ideas in a lot of different ways. I don't know, Marce, if you have anything there to add.
No, not really, Tati. I think that you covered.
Perfect.
Yeah, the answer.
All right, let's go with Handy with our last question then. Mute. I think I can't hear you. I'm not sure if it's me.
Yeah, of course.
There you go. Okay, perfect. Go ahead.
Okay. My question is about how can I adapt these classes online?
What ideas do you have for this one, Marcela? How can we adapt these online? We can't hear you there.
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay. I don't know if you can expand a little bit on your question. What do you mean by having this online? Because you have the material online as well, right? You know that you can go to EcoWeb and download all the resources. They come in PDF form. You can download, as Tatiana has said before, full episodes, or you can download different segments. And you can actually start, and that's what I am doing, and I try to recommend is that teachers start downloading different episodes and start creating their collection and have it in your own computer so that you can have access whenever you want and you don't need an internet connection. But I don't know if you were talking about that or if you refer to something else.
No, yeah, that was my question. Also, do you have maybe any idea of how can I improve the listening in my students?
Well, that's a great question. And I think Echo Teens as a radio program is a solution itself, right? So I think I would like to invite you and your colleagues and all the teachers who are listening to us to explore the material, listen to the radio program yourselves. You will fall in love, I am pretty sure, and start using the different resources. That is a great way because, you're not only giving students an audio, just an audio that probably you're used to in English classes. You're giving them a story. You're giving them real life situations, and you're giving them Colombian context. Because as in the video you could see, Echo Teens is created for teens, right? And also it's presented by teens. So I think that we have done that in such a way that they can connect to your students. And all the sounds, the accent.
Internet connection problems, maybe.
Lost Marcela, right? I think, well, I'm going to finish her idea because I think that she was on the right track. And it's like, all of the sounds and the accents and the different characters that you'll find really represents Colombia. And I think that will definitely, bring back our students. I was finishing your idea, Marcela.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Don't worry. Go ahead.
I lost connectivity for a couple of seconds. I apologize.
Okay.
No
I have
problem.
another one.
All right,
And the
so
last one.
I think that we've managed to answer these questions. So I'm kind of going to move on. And I think I do want to answer like one general question that we've heard in the chat and we've heard like from other teachers while doing different sessions. And it's again, how can we find that resource and how can I get my students to use these resources even if they don't have connectivity? I think this is a big problem. This could be a big issue when we're talking about those low connectivity rural schools, right? So we have some ideas for you. Well, first of all, of course, if there's a local radio program that has this available, you can definitely tune in and be able to to listen to the radio program and have this as the way of connecting with your students. But if you do have some kind of connectivity, you can also be able to download the episodes from Echo Web. And once you download the episodes, you can do lots of things with them. We've heard of schools that are downloading the episodes, putting them on USB drives and giving them to their students. Other schools are printing out this material from the school. They're printing out this material and giving these learning guides to the students on a regular basis, right? So we can definitely use one of these two strategies if we have to go into something that we deliver to our students. And finally, of course, as I was saying before, we have WhatsApp, which is an amazing tool right now for communication. Because we can download all of the episodes from the website, these episodes can easily be shared, right? So they can be shared via WhatsApp and you don't have any inconvenience with sharing them with your students. So there we have some ideas of how you can be able to connect with these students that do have low connectivity and are in rural areas in Colombia. Remember, we do have these different places where we can listen to the radio and check your local radio stations. Remember, the link is at the bottom. Check those local radio stations to see if we can find other ways of being able to connect and listen to our students, even if we don't have connectivity. Let's remember that this Echo 2.0 is an actual ecosystem that allows us to connect to students in lots of different ways, including radio, including web, and including other things that we will be sharing with you guys in future sessions. So now I do want to invite everybody before we go into our last section. This is our wrap up for today. Remember that we are going to be giving you guys a certificate for participating in this session. So to do that, you have the link in the chat, which you can click to make sure that you participated in today's session. And you can also see a QR code, I think on that side. You can see a QR code that will also take you to that attendance. So once you filled out the attendance, you'll be getting the certificate and other content from today's session. So we invite you to complete that session. So Marcela, I think we've reached our final section. I can't believe it. This went by very quickly, and this final section is that recap. So let's take a look at our recap section. All right, I'm so excited.
Yes.
All right. So Marcela, what are we going to do with this recap section?
Okay, I think this is a very familiar activity that many teachers do, and we would like to include it too. We wanted to include it too. And it's kind of like a quiz, but a fun and easy quiz. So here we have the 3 teaching techniques that we went over today, and I'm going to invite our teachers to help us finish the sentences. So finish the teaching techniques. Let's see. For example, teaching technique number 1. Prepare for what? And maybe
Functional language.
also, what's that?
Functional language.
Prepare for the class. Yes, very good. Prepare for the class. That was our first teaching technique. Teaching technique number 2. Communicate and collaborate using
Functional language.
Functional language, very good. And the last one, teaching technique number 3. Go beyond the classroom and
use the language.
Use the language itself. Thank you very much. Now, Tati, I think you have another part of this quiz.
We have one more part of the quiz. Let's see how you guys are doing. So for the last quiz, just to really wrap up our session, we have the action steps. For the action steps, we're going to find that we have then 3 sentences. Our first action step was share Echo Teens resources and what do you guys think?
Make it meaningful.
Make it meaningful.
No, there's another one.
Share Echo Teens resources and episode segments.
No.
Number 2.
Make students accountable.
There we go.
Make students accountable.
Yes. Our first action step is to share the resources, but also make students accountable before they come to class. Remember our little checklist, right? So those student checklists to make sure that they really did all of the activities to prepare. Now let's go with our second one. Our second action step, adapt your lesson plans with
Episode segments.
There you go. So we can take our episode segments, we can adapt it to our students, to our learning context. Remember, we have hybrid environments right now, so adapt it with the best possible way for your classes. And finally, number 3, think about the best ways for students to present work and
Make it meaningful.
yes, make it meaningful, right? And I think that's the most important thing at the end, because the more meaningful it is, the more students are going to take those experiences with them and use English to actually participate in these experiences. Well, I think we have reached the end of our session, Marcela. So I think you can keep going and start this little wrap up for us.
Yes, thank you very much. And I would like to start wrapping up by expressing my gratitude to the British Council, to the Ministry of Education, first of all, the British Council for making this possible, for allowing us, such an amazing group of people come together and help in the design and of the implementation of the project, and just giving us this chance to really reach so many remote areas in Colombia with this amazing material of ECHO 2.0. Also, I would like to express my gratitude to the teachers, Teacher Eliana, Handy, Diego. Thank you for joining us and for sharing your experiences as teachers of English in different regions in Colombia. You represent and you give voice to so many other teachers that are watching right now, but who unfortunately we cannot bring everybody here. But I think that you have done an amazing job, and it is very important to know what you think and to be able to answer your questions. And also, thank you to all the teachers who have connected, who have joined from different regions in Colombia. Please take action, take this back to your schools, share with your colleagues, share with other people who don't know about this strategy yet and who can join and benefit from other master classes.
Now
Tati,
that
do
you're
you have any-
mentioning,
Yeah.
you just mentioned something really important. You mentioned other master classes. So let's think of this going beyond, and just to say our final farewell, just a final invitation to go visit the website, explore the resources, share this video with other teachers so they can see this master class and take their 3 techniques, their 3 action steps into the classroom. And finally, just a very big invitation to our next masterclass, which is actually going to be next week. Our next masterclass is going to be focused on Echo Kids. So this time we're going to be focusing on that other radio program that I mentioned to you guys in the beginning. And with this radio program, we're going to be focusing on how we can make this learning process easier in a face-to-face environment and an online environment using these hybrid resources from Echo Kids in our classroom. So please join us. Marcela and I will be here again next week with you guys, going through these resources for Echo Kids and sharing with you 3 different strategies, 3 different action plans so you guys can really use and get the most out of Echo Kids. So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Marcela. Thank you, Handy. Thank you, Diego. And thank you, Eliana, for your time. And I think that we've learned all a lot from each other. So we hope to see you next week. Bye, everyone, and have a great
Bye-bye.
afternoon.
Until next
Bye
week.
bye.
Bye.